Good morning, everyone. Thank you very much for attending our Dharma service this morning. I'd like to welcome all of you, especially for those who attend our Dharma service for the first time. After the ringing of the bell, we chant Sutra, Ju-Seige, the service book, page 93. Thank you.
And good morning again. Thanks for joining us again for Sunday service. Just a reminder, after service, we'll be having our Dharma reflection session, and that'll take place about 5 minutes after service. Next up, we're going to be doing the reading of Three Treasures with Reverend Umezu.
Please join me in reading the Three Treasures. Hard is it to receive a human form. Now we have received it. Difficult is it to hear the Buddha Dharma. Now we hear it. If we do not receive awakening in this life, in what life shall we do so? Let us reverently take refuge together in the three treasures of the truth. I take refuge in the Buddha. Together with all beings, may we attain the great way of enlightenment, awakening to the supreme intent of the Buddha. I take refuge in the Dharma. Together with all beings, may we enter the storehouse of Dharma, acquiring wisdom as deep as the ocean. I take refuge in the Sangha. Together with all beings, may we become united at the great assembly, being free of all bondage. Hard is it to encounter the supreme, profound, and wondrous Dharma, even in 100,000 million kalpa. Now we are able to hear and receive it. Let us thoroughly understand the true intent of the Tathagata. Namandats, namandats. Sankyemon. 人参受けがたし、今すでに浮く。仏法聞きがたし、今すでに聞く。この身根性に向かってどせずんば、さらにいずれの章に向かってかこの身をどせん。大衆もろともに指針に参謀に消えし立てまつるべし。自ら仏に消えし立てまつる。まさに願わくは衆生と共に大道を体現して無常意を起こさん。自ら法に消えし立てまつる。まさに願わくは衆生と共に深く教蔵に入りて知恵海のごとくならん。自ら僧に消えし立てまつる。まさに願わくは衆生と共に大衆を通りして一切無限ならん。無常人人未明の法は百千万語にもあようことかたし、我今検問し従事することを得たり、願わくは如来の真実義を下し立てまつらん。ナモアミダウツ、ナマンダウツ、ナマンダウツ、ナマンダウツ、ナマンダウツ、ナマンダウツ、ナマンダウツ、ナマンダウツ、ナマンダウツ、ナマンダウツ。
We will now have a Dharma message with Reverend Umezu.
Please join me, palms together, as I read words written by our founder. Deep mind is the deeply entrusting mind. There are two aspects. One is to believe deeply and decidedly that one is a foolish being of karmic evil, caught in birth and death, ever sinking and ever wandering in transmigration from innumerable kalpas in the past, with never a condition in this world that would lead to emancipation. The second is to believe deeply and decidedly that Amida Buddha's 48 vows grasp sentient beings, and that allowing oneself to be carried by the power of the vow without any doubt or apprehension, one will attain birth in the Pure Land. Naman doubts, naman doubts, naman doubts, naman doubts, naman doubts. Good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today. I'm sorry my glasses are foggy, so I hope you could see me. To anyone who's joining us for the first time, thank you so much for joining us. We're so happy to have you. The passage that I have just shared was written by Pure Land Master Shandao and was quoted actually by our tradition's founder, Venerable Shinran, in his main written work called Kyogyo Sho Monrui. In this Venerable Shinran, in this quote that Venerable Shinran has quoted, he is trying to clarify what type of heart and mind a person has when they completely trust in and do not doubt the Buddha's fundamental vow that is constantly working to rescue all suffering beings. The first point that is being made is that when one completely trusts and has conviction in Amida's vow, it means that one truly understands and accepts the conditions in which they are living, that they are constantly cycling through experiences of stress and suffering due to the depth of the three poisons, which are selfish desires, our selfish aversions, and our delusion to reality. And there is nothing that they can do on their own to escape this cycle. The second point that is being made is that to trust and have conviction in Buddha's vow means to understand and accept that Amida Buddha's vows were made exactly for someone in the situation stated above, and that they should trust in it as they are, because the light envelops them as they are. So simply put, a person who completely trusts in and has convictions in Amida Buddha's vow has a heart and mind of truly, sincerely understanding and accepting who they are, and truly, sincerely understands and accepts the working of the Buddha Dharma as it is. Now, it may seem easy enough to just say, we only have to trust in something, but as Shakyamuni Buddha's core teaching teaches us, the reason that we experience stress and suffering is because we have selfish desires, selfish aversions, and delusions about reality, how the world works. So because we have these three poisons, I think it's very difficult for us to accept anything as it is. And due to this condition, we are always wanting things to go my way, right? So I would like to offer the following example of what I mean. All of my life, I have always loved food and loved eating. Ever since I was young, I've had a really bad habit of overeating foods I really love, to the point of almost throwing up. And I have done that when I was a kid, ate too much that I threw up. But when I was young and living with my parents, we had to eat whatever was being served to us, right? So usually one of my parents cooked, and I have two siblings. So amongst the three of us, there was a good chance that at least one of us was not happy with what we were being served for dinner. Of course, when we were children, we would complain and say, I don't want to eat this. Why do we have to eat this? And so, my parents would say, well, this is what we're having. So we would just all take more of what we liked and then try not to take anything of what we didn't like. And if we didn't want to eat anything on the table, my father would tell us, well, I guess you aren't really hungry, because a truly hungry person would eat anything. And then so we would feel bad and just eat what was there. So even though we were complaining, my parents were trying to urge us to accept the food that was being given to us as it was. But when I left home for college, I was so excited because my first year at college, I lived in the dorms, and there was a commissary where we could order whatever food we wanted. So every day, every meal, I could go eat whatever I wanted and customize it however I wanted. So the subsequent years, I going through college, getting a part-time job, moving into apartments. Now I was able to cook what I wanted and go out to eat wherever I wanted, right? So I was becoming more and more accustomed to having my food the exact way that I wanted it to be. So now fast forward to today, I have now sadly conditioned myself to the point that I have become even more picky about the way that I like my food. And with the culture that we have here in America, it's very easy to ask for customizations and substitutions, right, when you go out to restaurants. So I have become very spoiled and have developed this very bad habit of not being able to accept some food as it is. Depending on the situation, if I order something and I customize it at the restaurant and it doesn't come the way that I ordered it, I'll even get into a bad mood because, oh, this isn't the food that I ordered. This isn't the way I wanted it. And I've realized how bad my habit has become, and my spouse, Marie, is trying to help me with this habit. So she'll point out to me, hey, you're being a little bit unreasonable. So I have someone in my life helping me with that. But perhaps, you all might not be so particular about your food as I am. But I would venture to guess that there are things in each of your own lives that you like customized or having it your way and cannot accept it just as it is. Maybe it's as small as having a specific Starbucks or coffee bean order. Or maybe it's as large as wanting, a political or social climate to be a certain way. So I think if we reflect on it, I think we can all find something in our lives that we desire to be a certain way because it's convenient for us. And we can find examples of when we get angry when the situation doesn't go the way that we want. And I think this is an example of how we have trouble accepting things as they are. If it is this difficult to accept outside conditions, how much more difficult must it be to accept the personal conditions of my life being full of the three poisons? Even though Marie is telling me, hey, you're being unreasonable, I don't want to accept that. But because of this selfish tendency, I think it is very important for us to always reflect on whether or not we are listening to the Dharma as it is and accepting it as it is. And again, I think this is something easier said than done. Not too long ago, I came across a blog where the blogger shares different supposedly Buddhist quotes and comment on whether they are truly quotes from the Buddha. And foolishly, I had commented on one of the threads. And since then, I am notified when someone else posts to that same thread. I say foolishly because if any of you have ever gone in on the comments section of anything, it's not a good idea. Anyway, side note. So recently, a comment that I was notified about was that someone said, hey, you're not sharing the Buddhism that I want to hear. The person actually wrote, this is not the Buddhism I want to hear. And when I first read this, of course I was critical of the comment because of my own relationship to Buddhism. But then, as I reflected on it, it sparked a memory within me when I was reminded of my comments to my teacher when I was first starting out on my journey to listening to the Dharma more purposefully. So when I was, first starting to, really trying to understand what Jodo Shinshu Buddhism was, I asked my teacher, why don't I ever hear messages about, this issue or that issue that's going on? There's so much going on in the world. Shouldn't the messages apply more directly to me, to the specific issues, that I'm facing so that I know how to navigate Dharma in my life? And I expressed to him that I thought that the Dharma was not being shared with me in the way that I thought it should be, the way that I needed it to be shared or I wanted it to be shared. And because of that, I felt that, oh, the Dharma, maybe it doesn't apply to me. Maybe I want to hear something else. So although I didn't use the exact same words that the commenter used, I realized too that I too had expressed, this is not the Buddhism I want to hear. And my teacher replied to me, are you sure that the Buddha is not trying to reach out to you? Are you sure the Buddha is not trying to teach you something? If you are not hearing it, Do you think the Buddha, the Nembutsu, turned its back on you? Or are you turning your back on the Nembutsu? And that comment really hit me and made me think about how I was listening to Dharma. So through further listening to more messages and through further conversations with my teacher, I have learned that it's not about listening to the Dharma in the way that I want and only hearing things I want to hear, but truly listening to what Dharma is trying to teach me about life and listen to what Buddha wants me to hear. I was made to realize that even in my listening to the Dharma, I could not accept it as it was, and I was trying to customize it for myself. So what is it that the Buddha Dharma wants to teach me and wants me to hear? Perhaps we can use the word ironically, but what Amida Buddha wants me to hear is the thing that Buddha is trying to save me from in the first place, which is the three poisons. The idea that I have these things, the selfish desires, the selfish aversions, and the delusion. And these are actually getting in the way of my own listening. And it is precisely because we have this condition that Dharmakara Bodhisattva established and fulfilled the vow and Namo Amida Butsu, the Buddha name, to save me from myself. Because Buddha knows that there are beings like me who are trapped in this condition, always having these three poisons getting in our way. It is because of this that Buddha never stops trying to teach and get through to all of us, constantly and tirelessly calling out to us through the Buddha name, Namo Amida Butsu. The calling of Namo Amida Butsu is the Buddha saying to us, take refuge in me. Please listen to me. I am here for you, and there is another way to view the world than only through your limited, self-centered eyes. When we are able to realize and accept this Buddha's calling as it is, we will simultaneously realize that the Buddha is accepting me, embracing me, and enveloping me in its wisdom light, in its great compassionate wisdom, as I am already. And so it is from this point, I think, that we can begin to understand and accept that I am constantly cycling through experiences of stress and suffering due to the depth of my three poisons: selfish desires, selfish aversions, and delusions. And there is nothing that I can do on my own to escape this cycle. With this, we can also understand and accept that Amida Buddha's fundamental vow was made for someone exactly like me. And because of this, I can trust in it as I am, because its light is already embracing me as I am. It is rescuing me. It is working to rescue me from my stress and suffering. This was the original intent of the vow. This is why the vow was made. So as we all continue to listen to Buddha's calling of Namo Amida Butsu, or we also call the Nembutsu, I hope that we can all practice accepting the calling of the Buddha as it is, and practice receiving and accepting the words of the Buddha as they are. And I hope that we can practice not customizing the Buddha Dharma for our own personal benefit, and practice being aware of how often we wish things and situations to be customized in our own lives for our selfish desires. I think with this foundation in our heart and mind, we can find a deeper appreciation and joy of Namo Amida Butsu and our own lives. Thank you very much for allowing me to share my appreciation and understanding of Namo Amida Buddha. Thank you very much for listening and attending our Dharma service today. I would now like to invite you to put your hands together as I reread the words quoted by our founder, Venerable Shinran. Deep mind is the deeply entrusting mind. There are two aspects. One is to believe deeply and decidedly that one is a foolish being of karmic evil caught in birth and death, ever sinking and ever wandering in transmigration from innumerable kalpa in the past, with never a condition in this world that would lead to emancipation. The second is to believe deeply and decidedly that Amida Buddha's 48 vows grasp sentient beings, and that allowing oneself to be carried by the power of the vow, without any doubt or apprehension, one will attain birth in the Pure Land. Naman doubts, naman doubts, naman doubts, naman doubts, naman doubts.
Thank you, Reverend Umezu, for your Dharma message this morning. Next, we'll be reading Rogemon.
I invite you to put your hands together and as we read Ryogemon together. We rely upon Amida Buddha with our whole heart for the enlightenment in the life to come, abstaining from all sundry practices and teachings, and giving up the trust in our imperfect view. There is no doubt that the assurance of enlightenment comes at the very moment we entrust and we recite the Nembutsu, Namo Amida Butsu, in joy and gratitude for the Buddha's compassion. We also acknowledge gratefully the benign benevolence of our founder and succeeding masters who have led us to live in this profound teaching, and we do now endeavor to follow throughout our lives the way laid down for us. Ryoge Shitsugon. Moro moro no zogyo zashu jiriki no kokoro o furistete. Isshin ni Amida nyorai warera ga kondo no ichi daiji no gosho. On tasuke sorae to tanomi moshite soro. Tanomu ichine no toki Ojo ichijo on tasuke jijo tozonji. Kono ue no shomyo wa goon hosha tozonji. Yorokobi moshisoro. Kono on kotowari chomon moshiwake soro koto. Go kaisan shonin go shussei no goon. Shidai sojo no zenjishiki no asakara zaru go kanke no goon to arigataku zonji soro. Kono ue wa sadame okaseraruru on okite ichigo kagiri mamori mosubeku soro. Namo Amida Butsu, Namanda Butsu, Namanda Butsu, Namanda Butsu, Namanda Butsu, Namanda Butsu, Namanda.
Thank you, Reverend Umezu. Just a reminder, shortly after the service, we'll be having a Dharma reflection session in about 5 minutes after the announcements. I know there's a lot of new people here today. Welcome for coming, and thank you for coming. If you would like, Reverend Takata will be giving a short introduction in the back, if you would like to stick around for that. All right, now on to announcements. Let me see here. Okay, the first announcement is Hatsubon. The first Obon Dharma service, and that will be on July 23rd at 5 p.m. The guest speaker is Reverend Brian Nagata, the Director of Education Programs for BDK America. And following that service, we'll be having our short Obon festival, and that will be at around 6:45. We'll have taiko performances and our bon dance. And if you would like to attend and you're here in LA, please make your reservations. We're not advertising it out to the public, so right now, if you would like to sign up and you're here, it's WLABT.org/Obon2022 reservation. And with that, we have our Obon Memorial Lanterns, which will be hanging on our Yagura on that day. So if you would like to memorialize or remember your loved ones, you can order a lantern, and they look like this. And it'll have your loved one's name imprinted on there, and it'll be hanging from the yagura. And at the end of the night, you'll be able to take that home with you. And then the following day, we'll be having our Obon Dharma service, and that would be, again, the guest speaker is Reverend Brian Nagata. And then following that service, we'll have a short service over at the Nokotsuro. And finally, we have yoga at the temple. That's the second and fourth Mondays of every month. And right now, it's still via Zoom. So if you'd like more information and to register for that Zoom class, you can email wladharmacenter@gmail.com. And lastly, we have our West LA t-shirts. So this, the design was, we created the design last year, and now we're selling these t-shirts. So if you want to show your support for the temple, they're $20 each, and they're available on the website at WLABT.org. All right, so that concludes service for today. And as a reminder, again, we're having Dharma Reflections session after this. And again, if you're here in person and you want to get a brief introduction, Reverend Takata will be in the back. All right, have a great day, everybody. Thanks for joining us.